Joining me now, Kush Desai, White House Deputy Press Secretary. Kush, howdy, if I've pronounced your name right. First time on the show. We appreciate you coming. Quick thought on the CPI. You know, it's interesting. When you take the wages that I talked about, the wage income proxy minus the CPI, all of a sudden, real wages are up about 3 percentage points, over 3 full percentage points as we begin the year. You know, people need to talk about this. They need to get this out. That's not an affordability problem. This is an affordability solution. Solution, Kush.
That's exactly right. Today's inflation report showed once again that President Trump has defeated Joe Biden's inflation crisis. What Americans saw and what Americans have been seeing are bigger paychecks and lower inflation. We saw inflation for 2025 drop over 2024. We saw annual core inflation at its lowest since 2021. We saw real wages increase by $1,400 for the average American worker. That's almost half of the real wage loss that Americans saw during the 4 years under Biden. So this is tremendous news. It's building on the news you also mentioned about our great jobs report, showing 170,000 private sector jobs. We've building on all-time high stock market highs that we've been seeing repeatedly. And the thing is that when you dig a little deeper into today's inflation report, we also saw, for instance, prescription drug prices actually declined last year. And that's despite the fact that we just launched TrumpRx.gov last week. As we get more drugs on there, negotiate more most favored nation drug pricing deals, work with Congress to pass the great healthcare plan, we're going to continue seeing even bigger savings for the American people. So, you know, once again, you know, the Democrats have been talking about affordability, but the reality is that Democrats and Joe Biden broke it, and President Trump is fixing it. And the economic boom that President Trump promised is underway.
Well, I mean, you know what? Sometimes you have to look at the numbers. The numbers tell a very important story. And that's why I was very cross at that Wall Street Journal editorial, which was written by a friend of mine who's usually a pretty good fella, but he got his facts all wrong, and he didn't put any new facts in. So your points are right. Now, the president said to me, we were talking in our interview earlier in the week, he said, we got to get the word out. We got to work harder to get the word out. And I'm sure that's right. But the point is, the facts are on your side, Kush. So when you get the word out, you know, you got to make sure you put factoids in there. Put them in the president's speech. He likes numbers, Kush. You know that. He likes numbers. I know it from my experience with him in the first term. Make sure he's armed with the right numbers, because those numbers tell an amazing story. And they may be pulling away. I mean, the Republicans, all this talk that they're going to lose the midterms, it's so much yesterday's news. I know it's not for a bunch of months, but you give him the right numbers, give him the right talking points, he'll be just fine. Let me ask you something else, Kush. Scott Bessent, I believe it was this morning on another network, said that he wants Kevin Warsh, the new Fed appointee, nominee chair, to get up on the Hill and go through the Senate Banking Committee hearings. Scott said he has an agreement with the Senate Banking Committee, even though the Jay Powell stuff hasn't been resolved. Can you corroborate that? Is that, in fact, what the president wants? Get Kevin Warsh up there soon and testify in front of the Senate Banking Committee?
That's exactly right. Look, Kevin Warsh is eminently qualified to serve as our next Federal Reserve chairman. He has wonderful experience in the private sector sector success. He has academic credentials that are extremely elite. He's actually served on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors as well. So look, we are working with the Hill very closely to get Kevin Warsh confirmed ASAP.
So you want him up there? So Bessent is correct. You want him. The White House wants him up there testifying before the Senate Banking Committee.
We want the Hill to. We want Congress to, or excuse me, the Senate to swiftly confirm him. Yes.
Okay. What are you going to do with the Jay Powell story? Tim Scott, the head of the Senate Banking Committee, said last week, I think it was last week, maybe it was this week, I think it was last week. Tim's a good guy. Tim said that, look, Jay Powell is inept. We all know he's inept. We all know he did a lot of damage to monetary policy. We all know he did a lot of damage to the independence of the Fed. We all know he doesn't know how to build or renovate buildings. All right. But inept doesn't mean criminal. That's what Tim Scott said. And Tim wants the there haven't been any actual charges, but I think he wants the subpoena taken down. Can you comment on that, Senator Scott?
Sure. Well, look, I'll let the president's comments stand on their own that he wants to see this process play out. Obviously, we're very concerned about the Federal Reserve under Jay Powell wasting American tax dollars on a ludicrous and renovation that's gone way over budget. But more importantly, we're focused on looking ahead and making sure that we get Kevin Warsh confirmed and that we get the Federal Reserve and we get monetary policy back on track to continue turbocharging America's economic resurgence under President Trump.
Well, what about Tillis? You know, Tillis wants to hold it up. Tom Tillis, North Carolina, he's retiring this year, blah, blah, blah. But he's going to stick around. He says even though he likes Kevin Warsh, he has said so publicly, he said he'll vote against any Trump nominee until the business with Jay Powell is finally settled. I mean, what are you going to do about that?
Well, look, here's the thing, and I think the president has addressed this as well, but look, Kevin Warsh, as I said, he is eminently qualified, and so we're working with the Senate day in and day out to make sure he's swiftly confirmed.
So you don't want to comment on the Kevin Warsh charges? There's no grand jury that's been impaneled yet, as far as I know, and no charges have been brought. I mean, Kush, what are the chances are, you know, Powell goes up, meets with Jeanine Pirro or anybody in the Justice Department, and then, you know, call it quits because he's going to retire hopefully in May. What are the chances of that kind of meeting?
Well, look, I'll let the Justice Department answer for that. I think, as the president said, he wants this process to play out, but we're looking ahead. We want to make sure we're doing what we can to get America back on track and deliver for everyday American workers. All
right, last one, I promise. The next Fed meeting is March. There'll be one more CPI report before then. I'm pretty sure, Kush. I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. Do you advocate that the Fed reduce their overnight target rate? Like right now, get ready, go. Cut the rate.
Absolutely. Look, here's the thing. Inflation is trending is cool and stable. It's trending towards the Federal Reserve's own inflation target of 2%. And it's the Federal Reserve's job, fundamentally, to set monetary policy based on what the data show. And as I just said, the data show that inflation has cooled. And the whole reason why the Federal Reserve had to raise inflation rates in the first place was because Joe Biden was spending trillions and trillions of dollars, even though Democrat economists were shouting at, Jason Furman, Larry Summers, these Obama economists were shouting at him, don't do this, you're going to cause inflation. And that's exactly what happened. Now we have, as I just said, President Trump has defeated Joe Biden's inflation crisis. Inflation is cool, it's stable, it's around the Fed's target rate, and it's time for the Fed to get on board, lower interest rates, help turbocharge our economy, let young Americans be able to afford a mortgage, achieve the American dream of home ownership, and help get our country back on track.
All right, got it. Kush Desai, Deputy Press Secretary, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it very much.